Welcome to the Home Team, the show where no matter who you root for, here you are a part of the Home Team. I'm your host, Wyatt Bagnall, and today we are previewing the Sunday slate of games for Week 13 of the 2024 NFL season. Before we go any further, hit like, hit subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And without any further ado, let's jump in. So, we have already had 4 games this week, and so far I have been 4 for 4. So let's hope that I can continue that trend heading through the weekend's games. So, first up, the Los Angeles Chargers, they head to Atlanta and take on the Falcons. The Falcons, they're on a little bit of a skid right now, and the Chargers are coming off a loss to Baltimore last week. I would say that I hope the Chargers win this game, and I think they're going to. I think that Atlanta has the potential that they could have a potentially good day on offense, but I've said that for the last couple weeks, and they seem to have been in sort of a rut. And I think it's worth pointing out that sort of outside of the Tampa Bay games, their offense has never truly looked dominant this year. They've had good games, but they haven't been consistently great. And the Chargers field a defense that is actually quite good. We can all debate who the best defense in the NFL is. I wouldn't say it's the Chargers, but they have a claim to that. They're allowed to be in that argument for this season. And I think that can't be forgotten as we look at this game. And there are two things that usually travel in the NFL, defense and run game. And that's what the Chargers do. So I think heading into Atlanta, the Chargers are going to get it done. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. A desperate Bengals team waits for the Steelers in Cincinnati. They're coming off that loss to the Browns last Thursday in that snow game. I want Pittsburgh to win this game, and I think that they're going to, but I think Cincinnati's going to make this a troublesome game for them. Cincinnati has the potential, if they can go off on offense, to win this game, certainly. For Pittsburgh, I think this game is going to be much more about the Steelers' offense and the Bengals' defense. Whoever wins that matchup, I think, wins this game, because I think that the Bengals offense and the Steelers defense, it's going to be back and forth. I doubt one side is going to dominate that. Those are two really good units going out onto the field. So I suspect that the Bengals will hit somewhere in the low 20s, I would guess. If the Steelers can just beat that, I think that they'll win this game. If not, then hey, Cincinnati wins. And if Cincinnati's able to just completely go nuclear on offense, then more power to them. But this feels like the type of game that the Steelers would win despite the desperation of the Bengals. Arizona at Minnesota. I hope Minnesota wins this game. At least theoretically. I hope Minnesota wins this game, and given that it's in Minnesota, I think they probably are going to. Arizona's feisty and can win any game. If Kyler Murray has one of those games where he just plays really well, the Cardinals have been very difficult to stop all season. And they're still an underrated team just because they're Arizona. But Minnesota's beat better teams than Arizona throughout the season. And I would say that Minnesota is just better on pretty much all fronts. I suspect this will still be closer because Arizona's just really scrappy. But I'll take Minnesota to win that game. Indianapolis at New England. New England's a tough one to predict because they can always have the week where they just score, they hit the high end of Drake May and everybody else clicks and they almost go and beat the Rams or somebody like that. If they have a game like that, they could beat Indianapolis. But I can't be picking these games based on that. I hope the Colts win because I want New England to have a high draft pick to either get an offensive tackle or try to get a Tedero McMillan out of Arizona, one of those guys. So I'm going to take Indianapolis because I just can't quite rely on all of New England's players hitting. Whereas for Indianapolis, as long as Anthony Richardson just doesn't go completely off the reservation here, unless that happens, Indianapolis should win this game. Seahawks at Jets. I hope the Jets win, but I think the Seahawks will win. Seattle's an up and down team on their best day, but the Jets are just a down team. I think that momentum is completely against the Jets. I think this is a game that has pretty much nothing to do with the Seahawks. It just has to do with the fact that the Jets are imploding, to be perfectly frank. Now, if this could be the day where the Jets decide to go and get a win, I would really appreciate it, but I doubt it. Tennessee Titans at Washington Commanders. Now, I know everybody's first blush here is going to be, oh, the Commanders, right? The Commanders have been on a bit of a skid and not playing quite how we would want them to play offensively, in particular, Jaden Daniels. They're not saying he's injured, but he sure doesn't look like himself. And there is always that factor of Cliff Kingsbury and his offense has always fallen off in the second half of seasons. Is that what we are seeing once again? And if that's the case, how has he not looked himself in the mirror and asked, why is this happening? And how does it keep happening? If it happens once or twice throughout your career, okay, that's one thing. But when it actually is a trend and it's happening every single year, there's something in your approach and there's something in your philosophy that is not clicking the way that it's supposed to. And I think that that's something that needs to be considered a little bit more. Tennessee, they're coming off a win against Houston last week. A win where their offense actually looked pretty decent and their defense always plays well. This is a game I will take Washington to win this game. And I hope they do, because I think that they're a good team to have in the playoffs. I hope Washington does. But Tennessee really has a chance to pull the upset. And in fact, I'm going to pick Tennessee to pull the upset. Because until I see Washington's offense come back to life, I want Washington to win. But this feels like the upset. Because it feels like Washington is just sort of spiraling a little bit. Not a whole lot, but this is a young team. This is its first year really having success. And we have a coach, like an offensive coaching staff that has a history of falling off in the second half of season. So I'm going to pick Tennessee as an upset today. Houston at Jacksonville. Apparently Trevor Lawrence is going to be back for this game, which that's good news for the Jags overall. Because considering a whole lot of people there are playing and coaching for their jobs. But I both want and think that the Texans are going to win this game. The Houston Texans are not what some people did. I always thought that they were a level below the true contenders this year. My stance from the start with the Texans has been they were a year ahead last year, and this year they're going to be a little bit more normal to where like a team on their trajectory would be. And then next year and the year after is when their Super Bowl window really opens. But that's still several levels above Jacksonville. And I think that I will take the Texans because I think that they're just better on pretty much all fronts. I think they have a better coach. I think they have a better quarterback. I think that their weapons are better. Although Brian Thomas has been a very good rookie for the Jags. I think their defense is better. I just think that the Texans throw things at the Jags that are difficult. And not to mention, the Texans, even when they were really bad, did a really good job of handling Jacksonville. So I'll take the Texans. Rams at Saints. Tricky one. New Orleans is always tough to predict at this point. They've been up, they've been down. So have the Rams. Rams coming off a disappointing one. Give me the Rams. I don't think that the Saints with an interim coach and Derek Carr and a whole bunch of injuries, I'll take the Rams. I like McVay. I like Stafford. Puka, Cooper Kupp. If those guys are healthy, the Rams are usually pretty good. So I'll take the Rams to go to New Orleans and beat the Saints. Tampa Bay at Carolina. Carolina gave the Chiefs a hell of a fight last week. Is that real, or was that just we saw their best shot? I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I want Tampa Bay. I'll take Tampa Bay. I want the NFC South to come down to Tampa Bay and Atlanta and let those two battle it out to the very end. So I'll take Tampa Bay to go to Carolina and win that game. I think that it's a difficult one, or at least more difficult than you'd think, especially because it's a division game. So those are always a little more hotly contested than people would anticipate if you just look at the logos and the team names and stuff like that. But I still think Tampa Bay is going to get them done. Philadelphia at Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. I hope Baltimore wins. and I will take Baltimore to win. Lamar Jackson has a very, very good record against the NFC, and I don't think Philadelphia is that damn good. I think that Baltimore, when they're rolling, is about as good as you get in the NFL. Maybe with the exception of the Lions. The Lions, I think, are probably the only team that, when they're at their best, are more difficult to stop than Baltimore because they just have more they can do. But Baltimore, when they're firing on all cylinders, is damn tough to stop. I think they're more physical than most teams, and I think that they come in with that attitude. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens in that game. It'll be, if the Eagles' defensive front can stop the Ravens' run game, then I think their secondary has a decent chance of matching with the Ravens' receivers. But that's been the formula for a lot of teams, and it still doesn't always work. So we'll see. I'm going to take the Ravens. They're at home, and they need to try to keep ground in their division to still be alive and viable for a home playoff game. Sunday Night Football, San Francisco at Buffalo. This one's going to sting. I hope we win this game, we being the 49ers. I hope we win this game. If we lose this game, I'm probably going to start rooting for us to just get a top 10 draft pick because we could just use an offseason to really reload this thing. But I hope we win, but I don't think we're going to. I think Buffalo, they're more healthy. We have game time decisions like Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. Brock Purdy's apparently going to play, but coming off missing a week with a shoulder problem is not what you want to hear going into Buffalo. It could be a major snow game, which would mean it's a trenches game. And if Nick Bosa and Trent Williams aren't going to play, then we're not in great shape. It just hasn't been our year. And I've come to the point where I accept that. Like, injuries get a couple teams every single year. And unfortunately, we were one of those teams this year. Whereas the Bills are playing among the best in the entire NFL. They're at home. Buffalo weather. It just feels like this is a perfect storm for us to not have a good night. So I am going to take the Bills to beat us, and I'm not sure it's going to be particularly close. I think that if we lose this game, I'm going to start looking forward to the offseason for the Niners and start looking at how I would like to see this team get retooled a bit. We're not a rebuild team. We have a lot of talent. Those guys just couldn't stay on the field this year. And I think having a higher draft pick would do a lot for us. So if we lose this game, it is onto the offseason for us, in my opinion. Even though our division will still be close, momentum's a real thing, and we just don't have it. So I'll take the Bills on Sunday Night Football, unfortunately. Monday Night Football, Cleveland Browns at Denver Broncos. So the Browns coming off of a win against Pittsburgh, and the Broncos coming off a win against the Raiders. Denver trying to make a push for the playoffs would be the first time since 2015, and I hope they win this game. I would like to see the Broncos make the playoffs. I think any team that can play defense like the Broncos do has a chance to beat any contender one time. I don't think they can string together a big playoff run, but I think that they could beat one of those teams and just play spoiler to somebody. And I hope it's Kansas City. So I will take the Denver Broncos to win this game as well for a simple reason. I believe their defense is one of those defenses that you could make a really strong argument that they're the best defense in the NFL. And then their offense with Bo Nix has been improving steadily throughout the season. I believe offensively they will simply outpace the Browns. I believe the Browns defense every once in a while has good weeks, but they also play very aggressively, which means that they can be burned. And I think Sean Payton's a really good coach and will be able to see that. The way for the Browns to win this game is Myles Garrett has to go nuclear again. I said that last week when talking about how the Browns would beat the Steelers, and it's the same scenario. If he doesn't go absolutely crazy, I think the Broncos should win that game. So I'm going to take the Denver Broncos as they continue to push for that last playoff spot. And with Miami losing this week, if Cincinnati loses also, that would be huge for the Broncos. If they could put another game between them and those teams, I think they're looking at a pretty good situation. But this is not a game that can be overlooked. The Browns are a dangerous team. I wouldn't say they're a good team, but they're a dangerous team that any given week could play spoiler to somebody. And if you're the Broncos, you can't really afford that right now. So those are my picks for Week 13. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this video with anybody you know who likes football. I'd really appreciate it. And I hope everybody enjoys the day. Hope their teams come out healthy. And peace.